Okay, how we all doing? How are my hatchlings? It's been a while, right? Yeah, it's been a really long time since I've put out any of the videos that I had been putting out here on YouTube, but it's time. Time to come back and time to do it more regularly. There's been a lot going on. Many of you know and can tell from the old videos that I've been in a 24-year legal battle. After having served time in prison for tax evasion and all the rest of it, the government continues to attempt to bully me, and we're literally still in court. They're now trying to steal my sister's property from her. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we'll win, but it really is against people with an unlimited budget. The government is not fair. It's not reasonable. They're not interested in what's true. They're interested only in winning at all costs. And so, as you might imagine, they don't really like me and really have been pursuing me in ways that are crazy. I don't know anyone who's been subjected to what I've been subjected to over 24 years for having won $1 million on Survivor and asked them the question, who paid what to whom? Because I know it was owed to Malaysia at the time. And that's what I served 5 years in prison for, and they're still coming after me. Anyway, that's a big part of what has been my focus. So I haven't been available to talk to you about things that most of you are interested in, like season 47 of Survivor. I've still never missed an episode of Survivor. I still stay on track. So one of the videos coming up probably will be about season 47, which just ended. And I have plenty to say because the truth is, it's probably one of the best seasons of all Survivor seasons. There were more really great players, people who understood the game on this season than I think on any other. I also got a little bit busy with a little show called House of Villains. Some of you may have seen that. It's on Peacock now. The finale just aired recently, a few days ago. And that was fun. Crazy. Nothing like any of the other shows that I've been on. Really nuts. Here it is 24 years after I won the original Survivor season, and how many hundreds of unscripted drama competitions have been out there. So you would think people watching these shows might understand how these games work and how to come to the show prepared to play the game. You would think. These folks had no frickin' idea, and an open bar. So it was like being in a damn zoo. These people were crazy. But I guess that's part of the House of Villains brand. I mean, there was no such thing as reliable gameplay and all the things that are usually necessary to get you to a win. But it truly was fun. I was a roommate with Safari. I don't know if you know him as a rapper. He was with Nicki Minaj for like 12 years or something. Fascinating guy. And I don't want to throw out too many spoilers because some of you may not have seen the whole thing yet. But House of Villains is something that I filmed this year, and it just aired, so that was taking up a good deal of my time. A lot more of my time is focused on something outside of reality television, and it's the development of a podcast called Deeper, where reality matters. Reality being what's true, not necessarily reality TV. You see the connection. I'm sure you do. Anyway, Deeper, where reality matters, is something that really means a lot to me. That's something I'm going to be talking about for a long time, I hope. I can talk about almost any topic in your life, in our lives, in society, and relate it to the concept of whether or not we're walking around thinking things that we've come to believe, but oftentimes think are true. And that's problematic if they're not, and they may not be. So one of the things I try to do is challenge people to get outside their sometimes poorly constructed ideas about what is actually true. For example, the whole world constantly talks about his truth and her truth and my truth, and she's living her truth. There's no such thing, for crying out loud, as your truth or my truth. There's only what's true and our perceptions of it. So what's the problem with walking around thinking that you're living your truth? The problem is you can't have an open mind and do that at the same time. You can't walk around believing that you know what's true and you're entitled to your version of what's true if you're still taking in information and open to the idea that you might not be right. So if we change our language just a little bit and we recognize that there's only what's true, which we may know, we might not know, or it might be unknowable, it still exists. Whatever is true is out there. And our perceptions of it are only that, our opinions, what we believe, our perceptions. And that knowledge, or walking around with that understanding, will give all of us, I think, a better sense of reality, and therefore an open mind, a less closed off way of being and way of interacting. We'll be more open to hearing what someone else says and why they believe what they're saying if we can really take on the idea that we ourselves may not be right all the time. We might not know what's true all the time. One of the reasons that this whole concept of reality matters is so important to me has to do with this journey, this legal battle that I've been on for all these years. I went on Survivor and I was awesome. I really rocked it. You know, nobody understood what the game was about and really didn't get quickly a sense of how to play, but I did. And I outplayed them all. I rocked it through the season and I won the $1 million. But I'm also gay, I'm an atheist, and I was naked all the time. So imagine 20, almost 25 years ago now, this gay naked atheist pops onto the screen. Let's go back to that time. Matthew Shepard was murdered on a gate. A gay guy who people just beat the shit out of and tied him to a gate until he just died when they left him there. Ellen DeGeneres was fired for having come out. I mean, it was a time when we who are gay weren't even normal citizens. We weren't even considered equal to anyone. We weren't allowed to marry. It's better now, but it's still problematic, I think, the whole cultural perspective of what it means to be gay. But back then, it was way more than just problematic. And so here, when I won the $1 million and I contacted the IRS to find out who had paid what to whom and where did I owe taxes. The truth now, hindsight, looking back, the income taxes on the $1 million winnings were owed to Malaysia. They were required by law to have been paid to Malaysia, not by me and not by the other participants in Survivor, but by Mark Burnett or CBS before they left the island. So my inquiry of the IRS as to what I owed and to whom did I owe it, Malaysia, the US, etc., wasn't just valid, it took the IRS almost 10 years to figure out. The truth is, I was wrongfully convicted of attempting to evade taxes and imprisoned for 5 years before the IRS was even allowed to assess my taxes because I was entitled to what's called a foreign tax credit. And until they theorized that that tax credit expired, they refused to assess me to owe anything. So I was convicted of attempting to evade taxes I didn't know. I was imprisoned for having been wrongfully convicted of attempting to evade taxes that I didn't know. And I wasn't even told that I owe those taxes, never mind to whom, because they're owed to Malaysia, not to the United States, until 10 years later, after I was already out of prison. Hard to believe, I know, seems a little bit complicated. It's not, though, to the IRS. And the truth is, the prosecutors and the IRS absolutely outright intentionally lied to the courts, bamboozled the courts, and the courts never brought in what's called a special master, someone who actually understands the taxation. And so they just went with what the prosecutors and the IRS was telling them. And I took the brunt of everything. My life literally was destroyed. So all of that nonsense that I just babbled about, and I hope some of you are able to follow, is part of the undergirding for why this whole concept, deeper, where reality matters, is so important to me. Because what's true ought to be the goal. Finding out what's true in a court, finding out what did happen, understanding whether or not the person before the court is guilty of something, should have something to do with the facts, as opposed to how experienced the government is, or how much money they have, or how able they are to win at all costs. But our system's not set up that way. It's absolutely broken. And so that's one of the pieces of this whole concept of reality matters, that matters to me, how broken our system is. But since we're not all involved in the legal system, I will also talk about everything related to our lives, everything that we do in our lives when we're working, when we're driving, when we're engaged with academics, what it means to think about that concept of what's true and does it matter. I almost hate to go there, but what about politics and what's happening with that? I mean, I think it's just crucial that we start thinking more critically. We have never, I don't think, been in a position where we are being bombarded with more, not just misinformation, where people put out information mistakenly that isn't true, but disinformation, where we're actually being bombarded with information that people know to be false because they have their own agenda. And you notice I didn't talk about Republican or Democrat. I'm just talking about the dynamic that is the problem. And what can we do to overcome that? We can understand that reality really does matter, and we can become a little bit more effective in our own assessments of information. We can learn to discern better what's factual and what's not. We can be better critical thinkers. In Finland, for example, they start teaching critical thinking in kindergarten. And the results of their doing that are documented, extraordinary, amazing. Look it up. 60 Minutes did a piece on it. But just think about what it might be like if you're taught at that early an age that critical thought is helpful. You learn to discern what's true. You learn to be a little bit more skeptical, and then a lot more clear-headed and self-aware and centered when crap starts coming at you. It's a really, really powerful thing, and it's had incredibly positive impacts in Finland. Guess when we start teaching critical thinking in the United States? Ha! You know the damn answer. We don't. We're idiots. We're morons. We don't teach students ever to think critically. Maybe in college there are some specific courses, but those are courses that people who are curious about the topic choose to take. They're rarely a part of any kind of requirement. And I think it's our loss that we don't do that. Those are a few of the directions that I'd like to head into eventually with a little more depth. But for now, there's a little introduction into what's been going on, why I've been away, and I hope to not leave you hanging much anymore. I really do hope to post a little bit more frequently. I can't promise on a regular basis because I do have some exciting things coming up too, but I can't talk about them yet. So there may be a few gaps. But I'm back. Thanks for your patience, and I hope you enjoy. I love your comments. Let me know what you're thinking.